Michael Spinks once said, "I just wanted to get in there and do the best I could." It sounded simple, but behind those words lies one of the most dramatic stories in boxing history. Spinks fought legends, sights on the heavyweight division. Critics laughed. They called it a death wish. For decades, boxing experts had said that moving from light heavyweight to heavyweight was suicide. The punches from true heavyweights were heavier, faster, and far more punishing. Most believed Spinks was too small, too fragile to survive, and standing in his way was the ultimate test, Larry Holmes, the man known as the Easton Assassin. For 7 years, Holmes had ruled the heavyweight division with an iron fist. With a piston-like jab, widely considered one of the best, shocked the world and carried the weight of history on his shoulders. Yet one particular fight marked the end of it all. It forced him out of the ring and into an unexpected retirement, never to return. Now, at 60 years old, the former heavyweight champion finally opens up about the one opponent who stood above them all as the toughest man he ever faced, the fighter who changed his life and career forever. But before we dive into that defining moment, let's rewind the clock. Because to understand the man Spinks became, you have to first understand the incredible career run that made his sudden retirement such a shocker. Michael Spinks was born and raised in the rough streets of St. Louis, Missouri. He wasn't alone on this journey. His older brother, Leon, but Spinks turned the tide midway through the fight. Using his jab and left hook, he began to back Holmes up. By the 11th round, Spinks had pulled ahead on some scorecards. The fight went to the distance again, and once more, Spinks emerged victorious in a split decision. He had silenced the doubters twice, and in doing so, Michael Spinks cemented his place in boxing history as the lineal heavyweight champion. After the fight, he showed respect, embracing Holmes and telling him, "In my mind, you'll always be." He racked up wins, quickly building an undefeated streak. Michael Spinks wasn't just winning, he was dominating. He faced everyone put in front of him, climbing the light heavyweight ladder until he unified the WBA, WBC, and IBF titles. He became the undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world, leaving no doubt that he was the king of his division. At that point, he was considered one of the finest fighters of his generation. But conquering the light heavyweight division wasn't enough. There was a bigger challenge waiting, one that most people thought was impossible. Spinks wanted to move up. He said his Spinks was destined for something greater. The brothers returned home as national heroes. Leon embraced the spotlight, stepping into the heavyweight division with a big personality. Michael, on the other hand, preferred to quietly carve out his own path. In 1977, he turned professional, and it didn't take long for the boxing world to notice him. His right hand was so powerful and so unexpected that fans began calling it the Spinks jinx. It wasn't luck, it was destruction, a punch that came from nowhere and put opponents to sleep, fight after fight. Though that loss was devastating, it came against a man many still consider the most ferocious fighter who ever lived. In his own words, Michael Spinks admitted that fear was the toughest opponent he ever faced. Not Larry Holmes, not Jerry Cooney, not Stephen Tangstad, but Mike Tyson. And when you watch that fight, the 91-second demolition in Atlantic City, you can understand why. Tyson wasn't just a fighter. He was a storm. And on June 27, 1988, that storm ended the career of champion. At that moment, Spinks was undefeated with 31 wins. He stood at the very top of the boxing world. But little did he know, a storm was already forming on the horizon. A storm in the form of a young, ferocious fighter who would change the course of his life forever. His name was Mike Tyson. After defeating Larry Holmes twice, Michael Spinks should have been enjoying the prime of his career. He had silenced the critics, proven that a light heavyweight could conquer the heavyweight division, and kept his undefeated record alive. But the heavyweight crown is never easy to keep. When you're at the top, every contender in the world wants a piece of you. And in the late 1980s, one name stood above the rest. A name whispered in gyms, screamed in headlines, and feared by fighters everywhere. Mike Tyson. By 1988, Mike Tyson had become a global phenomenon. He wasn't just winning fights, he was dismantling opponents in ways the sport had never seen. He unified the WBA, WBC, and IBF titles with shocking speed and ferocity, tearing through the division like a force of nature. His highlight reel was a string of first-round knockouts that left fans breathless and opponents broken. For the best in boxing history, he held a record of 48 wins and no losses. He had defended his title 19 times and was on the verge of tying Rocky Marciano's legendary 49-0 record. To suggest that a light heavyweight like Spinks could dethrone him, it sounded absurd. But Michael Spinks wasn't interested in what sounded reasonable. He was interested in making history. When they finally met in September 1985, the tension was unbearable. On one side, Larry Holmes, the reigning heavyweight king, experienced, powerful, and still hungry to prove himself. On the other, Michael Spinks, the smaller man, the underdog, with nothing but skill, speed, and determination. The fight itself became a chess match. Holmes tried to impose his size and power, but Spinks danced, moved, and struck when the openings appeared. His awkward rhythm, quick combinations, and resilience frustrated Holmes. Round after round, Spinks did enough to keep himself in the fight, while Holmes struggled to land the big shots that could put him away. After 15 rounds, the judges, Spinks opened up more about that night. He admitted he had been terrified. That Tyson's reputation had already won half the fight before the first punch landed. He even suggested that Tyson may have been using steroids at the time, though he emphasized that it wasn't an excuse, just part of what made Tyson seem superhuman in that era. But despite the loss, Spinks doesn't look back with regret. He earned $13.5 million for the fight, at the time one of the biggest purses in boxing history. More importantly, he left the sport on his own terms. He chose peace over punishment, family over fame. Today, Michael Spinks lives a quiet life on a property outside Wilt. The fight was stopped. Michael Spinks had been knocked out in just 91 seconds. The boxing world was stunned. A fight billed as the once-and-for-all showdown had ended almost before it began. Tyson had destroyed Spinks, handing him the first and only loss of his professional career. For Spinks, it was devastating. Not just the loss, but the manner of it. He later admitted that the fear of Tyson had been unlike anything he had ever faced before. He wasn't just fighting a man. He was fighting the legend of Mike Tyson. The intimidation, the aura. Spinks confessed that no amount of preparation could have braced him for Tyson's mix of speed and power. Wilmington, Delaware. He avoids the spotlight, rarely attending boxing events, and has no interest in being a commentator or public figure. Instead, when he does appear, it's usually to inspire young people. He brings his Olympic medals and championship belts to schools, not to brag, but to show kids what dedication and discipline can achieve. Looking back, his career remains one of boxing's most unique. He became the first light heavyweight champion to conquer the heavyweight division. He dethroned a legend in Larry Holmes. He retired with just one loss, and though brother entered the middleweight division. Against all odds, both men left with gold medals, standing on the podium draped in the American flag. It was the first time in Olympic history that two brothers had won boxing gold in the same games. Leon's victory over the legendary Cuban powerhouse Teófilo Stevenson made headlines, but Michael's victory was equally captivating. His unique style, a little awkward, unpredictable, yet lightning fast, caught the eye of boxing fans worldwide. People could already sense that Michael, awkward stylist who had shocked the world before. On the other, Tyson, the youngest heavyweight champion in history, 21 years old, with an aura of invincibility. But while the world was excited, Michael Spinks was dealing with something new, fear. Spinks admitted years later that Tyson's reputation got inside his head before the fight even began. Tyson's stare-downs were legendary. His body language, his refusal to even blink, sent chills through opponents before the bell. Trainers said watching Tyson hit the heavy bag was like witnessing the boxing world. There was only one logical showdown left. Michael Spinks, the lineal heavyweight champion, against Mike Tyson, the unified champion. The fight would finally answer the burning question: who was the one true king of the heavyweight? The hype leading into June 27, 1988, was unlike anything boxing had seen before. Atlantic City became the center of the sporting universe. Casinos filled with fans and celebrities. Trainers, promoters, and journalists all knew this was bigger than just a fight. It was a clash of eras. On one side, Spinks, the methodical power. Other heavyweights had power. Yes, others had skill, but Tyson had both, in a way that was terrifying to stand against. And so, just like that, Michael Spinks's career ended. He never fought again. At just 32 years old, he retired with a record of 31 wins and 1 loss. For some, it was shocking. Why not chase redemption? Why not try to rebuild? But for Spinks, the choice was clear. He had reached the pinnacle, taken the risks, and when he faced the storm that was Tyson, he realized there was nothing left for him in the sport. Years later, circle away, to find his rhythm, but Tyson didn't give him a chance. A left uppercut rocked him. A right hand followed. Spinks tried to hold, to clinch, but Tyson's power was overwhelming. Then came the shot that ended it all. Tyson landed a short, thunderous right hand that sent Spinks crashing to the canvas. For the first time in his career, Michael Spinks was down. He rose to his feet, dazed, but his legs betrayed him. Seconds later, Tyson swarmed again, a crushing left hook, followed by another right hand, and Spinks collapsed for good. The referee didn't need to finish the count. A car crash in slow motion. His combination of speed and power was unmatched, and the betting odds reflected it. Tyson was the overwhelming favorite. Still, Spinks walked into the ring that night undefeated. 31 fights, 31 victories, an Olympic gold medalist, a two-division world champion, a man who had conquered giants before. And yet, as he stood across the ring from Tyson, something was different. The bell rang, and in less than 2 minutes, it was all over. From the opening second, Tyson charged forward like a predator unleashed. Spinks tried to shock the world. Michael Spinks had done the unthinkable. He defeated Larry Holmes and became the first light heavyweight champion in history to win the heavyweight title. The boxing world was stunned, but Larry Holmes wasn't going to let it go so easily. The following year, he demanded a rematch. This time, Holmes came out more aggressive, determined to prove the first fight was a fluke. For Spinks, it was the ultimate mental test. He admitted later that he had to keep himself calm and collected, waiting for the right moments. Holmes controlled the early round. Spinks shared the same passion. Together, they were inseparable, training partners, sparring partners, and brothers in arms. They pushed each other not only in the gym, but in life itself, carving out a bond that would one day place the Spinks family name in the history books. Their dedication led to a stage no fighter forgets. The 1976 Montreal Olympics. That summer changed everything. Leon competed as a heavyweight. Michael, the younger